सहनाववतु
सहनौ भुनक्तु
सहनौ भुनक्तु
सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै
सह वीर्यं करवावहै
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु
मा विद्विषावहै
मा विद्विषावहै
ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
Very good. वासुदेवेन्द्रयोगिनम्
वासुदेवेन्द्रयोगीन्द्रम्
नत्वा ज्ञानप्रदं गुरुम्
नत्वा ज्ञानप्रदं गुरुम्
मुमुक्षूणां हितार्थाय
मुमुक्षूणां हितार्थाय
तत्त्वबोधोऽभिधीयते।
तत्त्वबोधोऽभिधीयते।
वसुदेवेन्द्रयोगीन्द्रम् नत्वा ज्ञानप्रदं गुरुम्
वासुदेवेन्द्रयोगीन्द्रम् नत्वा ज्ञानप्रदगुरुम्
नत्वा ज्ञानप्रदं गुरुम्
नत्वा ज्ञानप्रदं गुरुम्
मुमुक्षूणां हितार्थाय तत्त्वबोधोऽभिधीयते।
मुमुक्षूणां हितार्थाय तत्त्वबोधोऽभिधीयते।
वसुदेवेन्द्रयोगीन्द्रम् नत्वा ज्ञानप्रदं गुरुम् मुमुक्षूणां हितार्थाय तत्त्वबोधोऽभिधीयते।
वासुदेवेन्द्रयोगीन्द्रम् नत्वा ज्ञानप्रदं गुरुम् मुमुक्षूणां हितार्थाय तत्त्वबोधोऽभिधीयते।
नित्यं शुद्धं निराभासम्
नित्यं शुद्धं निराभासम्
निराकारं निरञ्जनम्
निराकारं निरञ्जनम्
नित्यबोधं चिदानन्दम्
नित्यबोधं चिदानन्दम्
गुरुं ब्रह्मणमाम्यहम्
गुरुं ब्रह्म नमाम्यहम्
नित्यं शुद्धं निराभासं निराकारं निरञ्जनम्
नित्यं शुद्धं निराभासं निराकारं निरञ्जनम्
नित्यबोधं चिदानन्दं गुरुं ब्रह्म नमाम्यहम्
नित्यबोधं चिदानन्दं गुरुं ब्रह्म नमाम्यहम्
नित्यं शुद्धं निराभासं निराकारं निरञ्जनम् नित्यबोधं चिदानन्दं गुरुं ब्रह्म नमाम्यहम्।
नित्यं शुद्धं निराभासं निराकारं निरञ्जनम् नित्यबोधं चिदानन्दं गुरुं ब्रह्म नमाम्यहम्।
गुरुं ब्रह्म नमाम्यहम्।
गुरुं ब्रह्म नमाम्यहम्।
नित्यबोधं चिदानन्दं गुरुं ब्रह्म नमाम्यहम्।
नित्यबोधं चिदानन्दं गुरुं ब्रह्म नमाम्यहम्।
साधनचतुष्टयसम्पन्ना
साधनचतुष्टयसम्पन्ना
अधिकारिणाम्
अधिकारिणां
मोक्षसाधनभूतम्
मोक्षसाधनभूतं
तत्त्वविवेकप्रकारम्
तत्त्वविवेकप्रकारम्
वक्ष्यामः।
वक्ष्यामः।
साधनचतुष्टयसम्पन्नाधिकारिणा
साधनचतुष्टयसम्पन्नाधिकारिणां
मोक्षसाधनभूतम्
मोक्षसाधनभूतं
तत्त्वविवेकप्रकारम्
तत्त्वविवेकप्रकारम्
वक्ष्यामः।
वक्ष्यामः।
So now we are entering into the portion which is going to be elaborating, as I said, on two aspects. One is that it will be tremendous tool, aid for self-help in the sense of self-development. It will be knowledge of the direction in which we proceed with our internal growth. This author has said that I'm going to be talking about writing, telling, explaining on the method of Tattva Vivek, how to do the Tattva Vivek. Why? Because it is an essential and important tool, a aid, sadhan hai wo, for moksha. And kiske liye ye sadhan? Who will employ this sadhan? Definitely the one who is desirous of moksha. And those adhikaris, who are those who are desirous of moksha? Moksha means liberation. Moksha means a final, absolute state of peace. Who are they? He says they are the ones who are already pre-prepared to some degree at least with the fourfold mental disciplines, or call them qualities, but more accurate would be that they are a form of internal disciplines. All disciplines actually are only mental. They are at the level of one's internal mind, at the level of mind. Disciplines are not at the level of the body. Disciplines are at the level of mind. So to call these as mental disciplines means that these are those that are to be strengthened, developed, because of which one matures in one's self. One's mind matures. One's internal perception matures. You know how a fruit matures. So that process of maturing the mind is when these are the disciplines that one takes in oneself. So we said there are fourfold disciplines. Sadhana chatushtayam Kim. What are these fourfold qualifications? And this he is now beginning to answer. He is now stating these fourfold qualifications. And what are they? Just enumerating them first. They are what you see in red. Vivekaha. First qualifier, or call it the very first mental discipline, is Vivekaha. Second is Vairagya. Viragaha is Vairagya. Third is Sampattihi. Chatka Sampattihi. Chat Sampattihi. I'll explain all the words. And the fourth is Mumukshutvam. So, Mumukshutvam. Vivekaha, Viragaha, Shatka Sampattihi, Mumukshutvam. These are the four qualifiers. These are the four mental disciplines. What is Viveka? First, Vivek, to understand that, you have to discern first with what is just simple vichar. What is vichar? Vichar is just plain thinking. When we just think, a state of thinking, anything, process, systematic thinking process is vichar karna. For example, if we say, someone asks you a question, is God one or many? What will you say? You will have to think about it. What can it be? Is God one or is God many? So you start the process of inquiry. You start the process of finding, is it one or is it many? But if someone gives you a statement, God appears as many. God appears as many. Now, when such a statement is made, there is a distinct difference in thinking. God appears as many. To say that, you see there are two things, but you are looking at only one thing. You can only see the many aspect. You cannot see the God aspect. God appearing as many means it is actually pointing at one. That all this many is God. But you can only see the many. You can't see God. You are seeing plurality. You are not seeing God. So when you only see plurality and you are told that it is God which is seen as many, now you have to start the process of discerning. You have to start the process of separating. There seems to be two, but it is looking as one, and I have to now separate them. I have to see the two. To see the two starts the process of discernment. Discerning is like saying, another example would be, when someone gives you or says, more laukik example, there is butter and cream. There is already butter in cream. What are you seeing? Cream. But you are told there is butter in the cream. Now, how will you know there is butter in the cream? You will have to separate them. What is seen as one has two in it. You can separate them because they are two different things. Another example, laukik, there is ghee further in the butter. So there is, on one hand, there is butter in cream, And second, there is ghee in butter. For all of to separate, to see that there is butter in cream, you have to do some processing. The word is processing. You have to do some processing. You have to do some churning. You have to use some technique whereby you can draw out the butter from the cream. You can separate the two because they are actually separate, but they're appearing as one. When it's presented to you as cream, you don't see butter. But when you process it, you apply a technique to it, you churn it, the butter separates out and the cream separates as buttermilk. It separates out, the cream separates as buttermilk and butter. Then you put butter further into processing. You put butter into further, you heat it up. When you heat it up, you apply another method, and when you heat it up, now separates out the two. What separates out now? The ghee separates out from the remnant of the butter. The solid butter is left behind and the extract comes out as ghee. What came as one had to be separated out. What is plain thinking, it requires thinking. Viveka may involve vichar. But is vichar always going to be in the form of vivek? Not necessary. If I have to go somewhere, I can think about how to go, what to take, what is the process, how to apply for. All these things come in plain, simple thinking. Vichar to lagta hai. Vichar is also better than a previous state, which is just a state of impulsive, just a state of actually what we call as a prakrita expression. Prakrita expression means the impulsive expression. जो सोचे बिना हम कर देते. So many of us say, I didn't think before. If I had thought, I wouldn't have done it. That means मैंने विचार तक नहीं किया. That means I can have a life where I don't necessarily go through the process of thinking. I can think and also live. More than thinking is more than thinking normally is when you have to acutely think to separate out what appears to be mixed up. This is very important. What he's calling as a mental discipline here is not a plain process of thinking. विचार की बात नहीं है ये. यहाँ पे बात हो रही है विवेक की. विवेक का मतलब है that I develop the subtle capacity, the subtle process. I develop the way to inquire, to think, to separate out what seems to be apparently mixed up. What seems to be one. And when I start separating it out, they are separatable. You can separate them because they are of two distinct natures. मगर जब दिख एक ही रहा है, तब it is not going to be very easy to see. Apparent क्या है? When you are told God appears as many, this is where all our scientific thinkers or modern thinkers or lot of religions, lot of independent ideologies, I'm not going to take their names, but you know they exist in society. They say, कहाँ दिखता है? दिखाओ God. Where is God? You only see the multiplicity here. You only see plurality here. You only see suffering here. You only see some gradations here. You're seeing what you're seeing, and it is just enough to conclude that this is what there is. Don't hypothesize further and say that there is God here, because if there is, show it. Why doesn't it get seen. Well, if I give you cream and I say there is butter in it, and you give me the question back, show me the butter, I'll say, okay, this is the process. It is there, is certain, but if you don't go through the process, you can never churn it out. The cream will remain cream by itself, it will not separate out. The butter will remain butter by itself, it will not separate it out. Of course, example has a limitation. Here what you see the world. This world, is this the final conclusion about the world? जो लाइफ हमें दिख रही है, जो हमारा जीवन इधर इस दुनिया में दिख रहा है, जैसा भी हम सबको अपना अपना दिख रहा है, is this the final thing about it? जब इसके बारे में सोच शुरू होती है, तो you are starting with विचार. You're just starting to say, क्या ये सब यही final है? You know, when we go through the process of life and when we suddenly reach an age and we ask ourselves, is this all what life was really meant for? I mean, was there really nothing more to life than what I am already living? Is this conclusive? Is this just nothing more to it? This is vichar. And then I start a specific thinking process to find out what is what. Here, the first thing he says is, what is Viveka? He defines the very first qualification, the very first capacity to think, to discern what seems to be mixed up, separating them out. What is that you have to separate out? He defines it. Vivek किसे कहते हैं? Separating out mentally, thinking what appears to be one, उनको अलग करना, सोच में क्या है वो दो चीज जो मिक्सअप हुई है, जिसको हमें अलग करना है सोच में. That is नित्य वस्तु, अनित्य वस्तु. तो हमें मिक्सअप क्या अलग करना है? नित्य वस्तु को अनित्य वस्तु, इन दोनों को अलग करना है from what appears to be one वस्तु. एक वस्तु है. There is only one thing I see in life. I see life, one thing as in I am only seeing life with its multiplicity. मुझे बस यही दिख रहा है. इसमें जो मुझे दिख रहा है, इसमें मुझे नित्य वस्तु को अलग करना है और अनित्य वस्तु को अलग करना है. Now this statement, Vedanta will take us at two levels. Be careful in listening. Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekaha is the definition of what is called Vivek. Separating the Nitya Vastu and the Anitya Vastu. दोनों को अलग करना. One of you's mic is on. इनका नाम नहीं है यहाँ पे. तो नित्य वस्तु को अनित्य वस्तु से अलग कर देना. At two levels. Forget everything. If I just ask you a question, what do you think is everyone looking for? हर कोई क्या चाहता है? क्या आप क्या चाहते हो? Forget हर कोई बाद में देखेंगे. आप क्या चाहते हो? What do you want? What do you want? You will say, I want money. I want relationships. I want comforts. I want XYZ. There'll be few things in the list which can change. But I want all this. Next question. Why do you want all this? Probably because I'll feel happy. I'll feel happy if I have this. Is this not a correct thing? I'm thinking if I get this, I will be happy. Sukh. I will get sukh. When I say I get sukh out of it, second question is asked, is it truly only this that you want? Then you will say, no, of course I want sukh. But you know what? I want sukh which is going to last long. I want the sukh to last. Which means it should last for long period of time. You engage in something, you pursue something like money, status, etc. You pursue this because you presuppose or you suspect कि जब मुझे वो वस्तु मिल जाएगी ना तो उस मिलने के बाद मुझे आनंद मिलेगा, खुशी मिलेगी, सुख मिलेगा. I'm repeating this. When you engage yourself in certain pursuits of what you think you want, you watch the presupposition behind. You will only engage in that pursuit because you presuppose or you suspect. It could be very calculated thinking, but आपको लगता है कि वो पा लेने के बाद, मिल जाने के बाद मुझे आनंद मिलेगा, मुझे खुशी मिलेगी. When you think that you will get happiness after I get that object or the person or status, that presupposition, that suspect that I will get it after, I will get it after, those words quote unquote, I will get happiness after I get this object or this thing that I want. And I suspect, why do I want that? Because I suspect कि मिलने के बाद मुझे मिलेगा. Now I ask further, Vedanta will ask, okay, some of us have been successful, quote unquote. Many of us have been successful actually from statistics. जो जो हमको चाहिए था काफी हद तक हम सबको काफी कुछ मिल गया है उसमें से. Question is, what that when you were successful and you got it, you were happy. Was that the happiness alone that you had asked for? Because you realized that in certain time the happiness diminished. It reduced in quality, or the happiness changed by something else. It suddenly changed. If wealth brought me happiness, wealth disappeared, or wealth reduced, or the effort to sustain the wealth became too burdensome. कुछ हुआ, पता नहीं, लेकिन ठीक है, life is all change. Your statement, it becomes, है, मिला तो था, but now I realize that it is not just the happiness that I wanted. I wanted this happiness to last without it being diluted. That nitya sukham apeksha. Apeksha का मतलब है मेरी एक, looking for it. I can't get the right word at the moment. Apeksha is when I expect it. I expected happiness out of it. And when I expected happiness out of it, I expected the happiness to be lasting. It should have lasted me. That means I want nityam sukham. Not only do I want nitya sukham, I want this to remain as sukh. I don't want it to end. I don't want the dukh that may come when it ends. I don't want कि जब वो diminish हो रहा है and I have to re-struggle to keep that sukh again. That effort that will go in it, I don't want that. That means I want Nitya Sukham, and I want, as Vedanta puts it, I want Kevala Sukham. So in my want of desire, in my want of happiness, there seems to be certain expectation, a certain condition. And that condition is what I want all of us to recognize. Don't just understand. I'm trying to make the words such that we can relate it with our existing experiences that we have in life. It's not a question of understanding. This is a question of recognizing. When I want happiness, I am restarting the thought. मैं जिंदगी में कुछ ना कुछ पाने के लिए निकली. I got into some pursuit of life. क्या सोच के मैंने वो pursuit choose किया था? Definitely ये सोच के it'll give me comfort, it'll give me happiness, it'll give me status. Why do you want all that? Because it'll make me peaceful, it'll make me happy. I am hoping it will make me. That we all get into different pursuits because all of us think differently, that different things will make us happy. Question is that not true that we all got something or the other which gave us happiness at some point of our life? मिल गया हमको. हमें एक जॉब चाहिए थी, हमें मिल गई. हमें पैसा चाहिए था, कुछ मिला. हमें एक पर्टिकुलर रिश्ता चाहिए था, मिल गया. Happiest on the planet at that time. But with time, few months, few years, the same job now doesn't give me the happiness. The same person now, not the same happiness. It's diminished, or it has got completely replaced by some contrary experience, and now I want to get away with it. I want to change my job. I want to do something else. This person is not what I thought it was. I want to change the person, etc. That means when I wanted happiness, my precondition to that happiness was that it should be a lasting happiness. Nitya Sukham hona chahiye. That Nitya Sukham mein, there was another very subtle precondition. They're all one only. मगर उसके अंदर एक और एक्चुअली में सब डिविजन था. और वो सब डिविजन था कि वो नॉट ओनली सुख हो, उसमें केवल सुख हो, कोई दुख ना आए. It should not end. It should not reduce. मुझे वो कभी दुख का कारण ना बने. Not only should it not be that, मुझे उसमें से कितना सुख चाहिए? If you ask yourself, इतना ही हम कहते हैं. But when you see these conditions, it is something like I want more and more happiness. That is why when an object reduces, when I get less happiness from an object, I want more things so that I want more happiness. No amount of happiness seems to be my limit. कि बस अब इतनी खुशी चाहिए थी, मुझे तो मिल गई लाइफ में, अब मेरी लाइफ, I am done with it. At no point do we reach where we say, I don't want any more happiness. I've got the happiness that I wanted. Bas. Money, I can still say, okay, I've earned the money that I wanted. Bas, I don't want to earn any more money. Status, I've got the status. Bas, I don't want any more status. But happiness, do we ever turn up and say, Bas, I don't want any more happiness? So that means, not only should my happiness be Nityam, not only should it be Kevalam, Vedanta gives a third word to it, Niratishayam. Niratishayam means limitless happiness. I want a limitless happiness. This limitlessness of happiness, Sukh, Anand, Tripti, Santosh, आप कुछ भी word use कर लो. Point is, recognize the principle behind the force that we generate in our pursuits. I generate the pursuit only because these three are suspected that I will get them. If I don't suspect that I get from this my pursuit, or at any point it turns contrary, which is dukkham, I instantly stop it, I instantly give it up. Or I start the thinking of how to give it up. That means the force that I seem to be identifying with in myself is that I want nityam, kevalam, niratishayam, sukham. Apeksha of apeksha किसकी? नित्य केवलम निरतिशयम सुखम प्राप्ति. I want it. Not only that, I have another greater force that whatever seems to, I suspect, give me pain, give me sorrow, give me disturbance, I instantly want to do away with it. I want to give it up. I want to engage in a pursuit where I give up what is causing dukh, what I suspect is causing dukh. So the two things that seem to be interlinked together as a force in me, the simple word is sukha prapti. Sukha prapti, the force in me, and that sukham has condition 3. It should be nityam, it should be kevalam, and it should be niratishayam. And when I say it should be kevalam means it should never be embedded with hidden, you know what we call as hidden agendas? Iska hidden agenda. It's like wo sukh mein kuch hidden dukh nahi hona chahiye. That means if I, the minute that dukh surfaces or I suspect there is dukh, I want to do away with that. That kevalam means in it lies the other force, dukkha nivritti. Give it up. So I want sukh, and I equally am a watchful person. I equally am resistive of any dukh that comes to me. I will do anything to give up them. In fact, dukh is a greater motivation that I should not get dukh. It is a greater motivation for me to engage in things that I suspect will give me sukh. This much first. Is this a recognized thing? Because this is not really what Shastra is saying. It is only giving us layers of what we go through. We have to make a perception of, we have to start recognizing it. Vivek is separating things out. Remember? Now I am pursuing something with the hope it will give me happiness. And that it should not give me dukh. Here, principle of working is sukha ki prapti ki apeksha and dukha nivritti ki apeksha. I want these two. Is it there? Next thing. ये सिर्फ क्या आप में ही है? मतलब, am I unique that only I seem to be wanting happiness and all the time happiness and nothing but happiness and only happiness, and I wish, why we always think grass is greener on the other side? Because we think that life seems to have uninterrupted happiness. उनकी जिंदगी में तो सब कितना अच्छा चल रहा है, कितना स्मूथ चलता है. उनके तो look at that person, so lucky that person is, so lucky the situation is, etc. That means you're comparing yourself with another person or situation and saying, I seem to not have that what I think that the other person is having, and the other person looks at you or someone else looks at you and is saying the same thing. We all recognize this or not? We recognize this, right? I'm hoping. So when we recognize this, this is seen universally. It's not just my force. I begin to recognize that this force is operative in every living being. Every living being, not just every human being. Every living being, a living embodiment, wherever there is an expression of life and that seems to be conditioned to a form, that expression of life limited to a form is in search of, is in pursuit of happiness, which should only be limitless, and there should be never a break, uninterruptedness. There should be no interruption in that happiness. It should be uninterrupted happiness. This the verse says, or the words are, this Sarve pranina sukha praptaye. Sarve pranina sukha praptaye. Dukkha nivartaye cha pravartante. I know the Sanskrit words. Don't worry. It's good to get some hearing of it because the meaning will last longer. Sarve pranina. All living beings. All living beings, not human beings. प्राणी इज वन जिसमें प्राण बसता है, जो प्राण चल रहा है. एंट में भी प्राण चल रहा है. जहां जहां प्राण का एक्सप्रेशन है वो प्राणी है. सर्वे प्राणिनम, ऑल लिविंग बीइंग्स. व्हाट डू दे वांट? सुख प्राप्तये. दे डिजायर प्राप्ति ऑफ सुख. दे वांट सुख. प्राप्ति चाहिए उन्हें. I want sukh. If you just analyze the word or you just sit with the word, sit with the statement, I want sukh. See my hand moving. When you say I want something, you can see the hand moving. I want something. And when you say I give, what is a want? From out to in. What is a give? From here to there. From in to out. I give something and I want something. Now what do I want? I want happiness. Every time I am saying with that force with me, I want happiness, that want is already a state of saying, I'm looking for it outside in objects and beings and in my pursuits, therefore I engage to want it. So when I get that object or being or pursuit fulfilled, I am thinking that with it the happiness is also coming, because they seem to be linked in my mind, that the object and happiness have a cohesion. They are linked. I see them as one. I see the object, but do I see the object as a source of sorrow or as a source of happiness? The minute I see the object, if I am seeing it as a source of happiness, I want it. And if I see it as a source of unhappiness, sorrow, I don't want it. नहीं चाहिए, नहीं चाहिए, नहीं चाहिए, नहीं चाहिए. नहीं चाहिए, नहीं चाहिए, नहीं चाहिए, नहीं चाहिए. This is in, I don't know which language, Kannada or Telugu, there is Voddu, 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 Voddu. Nahi chahiye, nahi chahiye, nahi chahiye. I learned this only in a wedding ceremony where you are sitting on banana leaf and they come and serve you, and I, to say bas I don't want any more, I was taught this word, just say Voddu, Voddu, Voddu. But what struck me was the Voddu word had this movement. Nahi chahiye. Like here we say nahi chahiye, nahi chahiye, nahi chahiye. That, that movement is nahi chahiye. When you say nahi chahiye means move away from me. Go away from me. Nahi chahiye. And when you say chahiye, come to me. I want it. So when you are in the pursuit of happiness, of an object, in the pursuit of an object, you are, watch very subtly, you have already seen that object as the one, as one which has in it happiness. Seeing them like butter and cream. तो मुझे दिख तो क्रीम रहा है, मगर मुझे जो नहीं दिख रहा उस वक्त, इसकी what I want is, there is hidden. I think there is something in that object. I am seeing that object with happiness imposed on it. And so I want it. But I am not recognizing further that what if someone tells me that this object in 3 months' time is going to become redundant? Do I still want it as badly? Or worse, कि ये 3 महीने में this is going to become a big source of trouble to you. Now do you even want it that much? No. So what really is that I want? Sukha prapti and dukkha nivritti ja pravartante. In these two, all living beings are always in movement. Pravritti mein hai. They're always moving towards these two forces. Chahiye or nahi chahiye. They're always engaging themselves with this force in them. Now it says, starts the Viveka process. This much itself, there is some Viveka here. What is the first layer of Viveka? कि मुझे जो चाहिए, I have put it on objects and beings and pursuits, and I'm not seeing that I have a hidden motive behind it, and that motive is I'm expecting that it should give me happiness. And not only should it give me happiness, it should give me all the 3 conditions that we just said. Nityam, Kevalam, Niratishayam, Sukham, Praptihi from that Vastu. Now, Shastra says, थोड़ा सा और सोच लो, क्या कोई भी वस्तु नित्य हो सकती है? We have already done this in the previous classes. Change is a changeless fact. Change is absolutely the changeless truth of world. If this statement is really grasped by me, then would I expect a happiness changeless? Nitya means changeless, eternal. Would I expect a changeless happiness from an object whose nature is changing? No, I can't have that expectation. I will only probably be more realistic and say, as long as the object is there, I will get happiness. But when that object disintegrates or goes away or something, it is bound, my happiness is bound to change. I am not going to get the same happiness. I am in a more realistic mode of how much happiness can I have from an object. That is the first layer of establishment in a value, which will aid in further development. What is it? I am beginning to see that I am searching for permanence. Permanence here means eternal, lasting. मेरे जन्म तक तो रह जाए ना, मतलब as long as I am there. Why is there, supposing there is any parent who loses the child, why is the pain so severe? Because they thought, they think, they hope, they pray that the child will outlive them. हमारे जीवन में तो मतलब हम पहले जाएंगे. Child will outlive. But a parent cannot reconcile easily when the child goes first. Why? Because kam se kam it should last this long, no? Whatever I have worked so hard for, it should have some time span. But if I am told that the time span is uncertain of its existence here, of anything. Everything is on relative grounds. I don't know what I have acquired in crores I have acquired, and it just needs one calamity. It just needs any time. We don't know. And we all know in history, everything comes back to square one. Now, when I have this knowledge of what is changing, then the correction begins to happen. The viveka starts at that level. That मेरी जो चाह है ना, वो मैं किस डायरेक्शन में डाली है? I want this happiness. First, you have to recognize this. You cannot move into the second layer of inquiry if the previous layer of inquiry is not clear. A lot of people can hear Vedanta, but very few people move with Vedanta because you don't move in layers of consolidation. This is a different type of a knowledge. This is not a knowledge that you acquire information and it settles down. This is a changing the way you think naturally. A natural state of thinking we all have. This replaces it. And to replace it, it takes us step by step. Now, when I start to recognize that what I want actually is a complete state of happiness, why do people want heaven? There are religions which sell heaven to us now. I mean after death. They sell here so that you get a life of heaven afterwards. Or even a lot of Vedic rituals are there which will tell you, do this and you will get heaven later. And people take to it. People want it. What do they want in heaven? What are we asking for when we want a heavenly life? We use that term also in English, it's used. What sort of what to tell you? They have a heavenly life. What is a heavenly life? Means हमारा idea of uninterrupted happiness, जहाँ इतना भी दुख लेश मात्र भी नहीं है. This much dukh is also not puncturing that happiness. Lasting. That is why there are certain karmas that give you happiness with as long as Brahmaji is there. So you go and live life as long as the creation is there. You can live a life up to that point happily. Your happiness can last that long, but we'll come to that later on. This first layer of viveka is when you start identifying what you are looking for seems to be of the nature of endlessness, limitlessness. But there is a mix-up. I only have the external world where I can look for it. So I start my pursuits in external world with that hope, apeksha, that it will give me this happiness, limitless. But on inquiry further, मुझे ही पता है, मुझे कौन क्या बताएगा? मुझे पता है इस दुनिया में सब बदलता है. क्यों मेरे को शास्त्र विद्या थोड़ी चाहिए इसके लिए. यहाँ सब बदलता है is a known fact. So now Vivek starts. What is the Vivek now? अरे मुझे जो happiness चाहिए वो lasting चाहिए. और यहाँ तो सब बदलता है. और मैंने ये इन बदली हुई चीजों में अपनी happiness को hope रखी है. Vivek starts here. Am I intelligent person? Am I a thinking person? Am I stupid? What is wrong with me? Why am I doing it? I'll be realistic. Every object can give me some happiness. Okay, fine, only that much happiness. But why are the limitless happiness being imposed on these objects? Or these people? Or this person? Or this status? Why am I imposing it on that? And the minute I start separating out my imposition of what I truly seek, for which I must identify what I truly seek. This itself is a long journey taken if one identifies this. Trust me, you've covered a huge ground if one understands clearly in acceptance what is it that I seek. And then when he starts seeing, अरे ये हम कर क्या रहे हैं, हम जो चाहिए वो हम इस दुनिया में डाल के ढूंढ रहे हैं, स्टार्ट द इंक्वायरी, वाकई में क्या ये यहां मिलती है, वाकई में क्या इस दुनिया में सुख मिलता है, वाकई में क्या इन चीजों से सुख मिलता है, वाकई में क्या रिश्तों में सुख मिलता है, अगर मिलता तो किसी को तो मिला होता, मेरा तो सिंपल लॉजिक है, शो मी वन पर्सन, किसी को तो मिला होता अगर यहां होता. But you find everyone else thinking the other person's life is better than theirs. And that story of, we have heard this and I will, the story of a person who had no legs, I don't know if I've said it in this class or where, who has no legs, all he says is give me one leg, I'll be a happy person. The person who has one leg looks at the other, he says, if I had two legs, you know how much faster I would have moved? And the person who has two legs, he says, I have to keep walking all the time. I wish I had a bicycle. And the person who has a bicycle, he says, I have so much distance to go on a bicycle. I wish I had a scooter. And the person who has a scooter says, I wish I had a faster vehicle. And the person who has a faster vehicle, which means motorcycle here, supposing, he says, it rains and it's so cold and it's so this and it's so that. I wish I had even a small car. I don't know what are the small cars. This example is coming when Maruti had just come. So it's Maruti 700. So my example, it continues from there. A small car in which my family and me can sit. I'm honest, kuch nahi mangenge. At that time, you are happy to roll down the windows because you just had the car. After a year or so, now you want the AC in the car. I'm not asking for a bigger car yet. But I'm asking for more happiness in the same car. So now I want a car with AC. Now for a car with AC, I'll have to upgrade the car. So to upgrade the car, I have to engage in more pursuits, etc. So now I want a little bigger car. And then that little bigger car, then I want, up till now, look at me, I'm happy driving it. But very soon what happens? You don't know the traffic. God, this traffic is too much. I can't go through this traffic every day, up and down, honking. Someone's mic is on. Please switch it off. I can't go through this. So what do I want now? Driver. One driver. I can send him here. I can send him. Otherwise, I have to drive all the. You have to drive. You know from where you have come? You've come from the state at least where you had 2 feet, okay. From there you have come here. Did your happiness multiply with it? Or do you find that your happiness has reduced with it? Actually, the more you acquired, the less happy you became. Because the first happiness was truly real happiness. So many of us keep our first earned car or first earned whatever. Because it's a reminder of the happiness it gave us. Because after that, none other object, any amount of the higher quality cars doesn't give me the same joy. I am still looking at that joy that I had when I did not have it. I was struggling for it and then I got it. Now, watch the level at which your engagement and your involvement to get happiness multiplied and the proportion at which the happiness was coming deteriorated, got divided, got subtracted. This was multiplying, more happiness, niratishaya sukham. And as you keep getting it, you find it is not kevalam. It is not just happiness alone. It has come with something else. This is the first layer of nitya, what I want. And when I start seeing on what I am imposing it on, and that those things have a time span, they're anitya. They are not nitya. Actual word should be nitya and not nitya. The English translation of permanent and impermanent, eternal and non-eternal is fine. But if you start thinking in terms of नित्य है कि नहीं है, जब आपको पता चल गया एकदम से कि जहां हम खुशी ढूंढ रहे हैं वो एक्चुअली नित्य नहीं है, तो वो अनित्य हो गया. बट अनित्य इज नॉट अनदर स्टेट. पहचानना कि ये नित्य नहीं है इज कॉलिंग इट अनित्य. एंड दिस डिसर्नमेंट, separating this out, this is not simple vichar, this is vivek. I am separating out what I want first. First I have to do that. I am separating out what I want from where I am looking to get it. Where am I hoping I will get it from? Where am I expecting it from? And the minute I am separating this two out, instantly there is a realistic level of expectation. There is no ichha, too much of it. There are a lot of things that happen at that time. We'll come to that later. All that will happen is this kind of percolates into the second quality, which is vairagya. जहां मेरी समझ में क्लियर हो गया कि जो मुझे चाहिए वो इन चीजों में नहीं है, तो मेरे को जो चाहिए वो नहीं गायब होता है. वैराग्य डजंट मीन कि वो मुझे नहीं चाहिए. अब वैराग्य मीन्स उन चीजों से मतलब वो मुझे वो चीजें इतनी जोरों से नहीं चाहिए क्योंकि मैं है ही नहीं. Supposing I'm a child, it's very interesting game that a lot of us have played. You would have played with your children or your grandchildren. When a child really wants cookies, biscuits it wants, and there are jars you've kept, and the child very intelligently notices this jar mein rakha hai, and you notice that the child is overeating it, and you want the child to not eat it so much. What is the trick you play? You keep a similar looking jar there, and you put something else in it which the child doesn't like, and you mix up the jar, you hide the other jar. Now the minute the child sees कि ये जार तो वही है मगर अब इसमें वो नहीं है, does he want this jar in the same way? Yes. Now he doesn't want the jar in the same way. Instant his attention has shifted. Where is that jar? That means with reference to this jar, he's developed disinterest. That disinterest in that object, with the knowledge that it does not give me what I want, is vairagya. If you get this is a huge... It will take time to settle down. You may have to keep re-listening to this class, because this is just the first layer. I said Vedanta will give us this definition of Vivek at 2 levels. The first level is what we have done today. The second level we will do next class. This much Nitya. Bhanuji.
Yeah. 1 second.
Thank you. Nitya, Anitya, Vastu, Vivek. नित्य क्या है और अनित्य क्या है, उनके बीच में नित्य वस्तु अनित्य वस्तु में विवेक करना. This is the first layer. The second layer, as I said, next class. So we'll end the class here. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामया, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्.